If you're anything like most people, there's probably been some weight gain from the moment you graduated school. Every year, you might find a couple of pounds inching on, and the doctor doesn't say anything to you. It's just like, it's what we do when we get older. It's just a part of getting older. And that's what we believe. But could that be false? Is it possible that you don't need to go through this process? It's a lot easier. I always say this, it's a lot easier to release 1 pound than it is to release 20. You don't all of a sudden wake up one day and you are 20 pounds overweight. So this is going to be like a little wake up call for all of us. For all of us who struggle with weight or maybe would like to release a few pounds, build some muscle, whatever it is that you want, hopefully you will get something out of this today, because we are very grateful to have world-renowned New York Times bestselling author Dr. Neal Barnard. He is a researcher, activist, professor, and then one heck of a musician. And he is also the founder of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Dr. Neal Barnard. He is going to be speaking to us because he has a great book that's coming out, and he will show it to us later. It's called The Power Foods Diet. And these are the foods that will help us release weight naturally. We'll see.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, this is Lillian McDermott, and I am the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show. I'm also a life coach, a certified life coach. And if this is the first time that you've come into the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, I absolutely adore Dr. Neal Barnard, and I love it when he comes into the classroom. He always leaves us wanting more. And the last book that he did was Your Body and Balance. And we've discussed this topic. If you want to check out any of the other classes that Dr. Neal Barnard has been in the classroom, or check out his channels as well, you're welcome to do that. But every time that he puts out a book, I call them babies. These are babies for all of us that write. There's something different and new that he's researched, that he now is able to share with us in a global way, in a way that will help us. So today you're going to have to fasten your seatbelt, hopefully loosen your belt, tighten your belt, because maybe some of the tips that you will get today will help you release the weight that you want and become as healthy as you want to be naturally. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Neal Barnard is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Barnard, to the classroom.
Well, it's great to see you, Lillian.
Yes, I hear that this was your last child, and I know you have another one. So share a little bit about yourself and why you wrote another book, yet another wonderful book.
Well, as you know, we do research studies here, and we are always putting this to work for the patients who come see us and people who participate in our studies. And research has shown something really kind of unexpected, and that is that certain foods cause weight loss naturally. And what I mean is there are certain foods that will naturally tame your appetite. They'll take the edge off your appetite. So you fill up with maybe a couple hundred calories less. There are other foods that trap calories. What I mean is you eat these foods, they go down your digestive tract, there are unabsorbed calories, and these foods will trap them. They'll carry them out with the waste. You're flushing those calories away rather than absorbing them. And there are also foods that boost your metabolism, so you're burning off calories. And I thought, okay, those are power foods. Let's build them into our routine, and the weight loss becomes almost automatic. So that's the whole idea. Instead of torturing yourself with a punishing calorie limit and thinking, I've got to go 90 minutes to the gym every day. I mean, go there if you want to, but let's use the natural power of foods to trim that unwanted weight once and for all.
You know, this is the first time I actually hear this concept, because normally I hear if you eat whole food plant-based, you'll release weight. If you eat vegan, you'll release weight. but I've seen very unhealthy plant-based eaters. I've seen unhealthy vegans, not necessarily plant-based eaters, but vegans. I've seen unhealthy, overweight vegans. And so what made you see that these foods would help our system instead of pack the calories? Do they have a particular I don't know, component that you look for when you choose these foods?
Sure. There are a number of foods that have particular properties that have just become clearer over time.
Mhm,
For example, let's take some spices. Let's say we have cinnamon.
mhm.
Cinnamon tastes great. You put it on toast, put it on some oatmeal, put it on waffles, wonderful thing. But what you may not know is that there's a compound in the cinnamon. It's an aldehyde, and it was named the rather unadventurous name cinnamaldehyde. So you eat the cinnamon, goes down your digestive tract, it attaches to a receptor, and it releases a little bit of adrenaline naturally. That then boosts your calorie burning speed for a couple of hours after the meal. Okay, cool. So let's say I make some French toast and I pop a little bit of cinnamon on top. That's a power food. But we could go further. Let's say I put some blueberries or a blueberry syrup on the French toast. Well, blueberries have anthocyanins. That's what makes them blue. And there's a lot of research suggesting that that has a weight loss effect as well, which I'd love to tell you about how we discovered this. It's amazing. And I'm going to take one more step. I'm going to change my mom's French toast recipe. When she made it, she would crack a couple of eggs in a bowl and a lot of milk and cream and all these things and drop the bread in it. It would come out with 1,000 calories into the fry pan. I'm not going to do that. We're going to make it a lighter French toast. And so now my breakfast is actually a slimming breakfast because it boosts my metabolism. It has calorie trapping effects. And you can do this with a whole lot of foods. I can do this with a chili. I can do this with curries. I can do this with a million breakfast foods. So I wrote the Power Foods Diet. So instead of you doing the work, instead of you struggling to try to contain your appetite naturally, foods will do it for you. Instead of struggling to burn off the calories, the foods will do it for you if they're the power foods. Build them into your routine and the weight comes off.
So what if somebody is allergic to one of these power foods? For example, a lot of people eat almonds and almonds don't sit with me well. Is that also taken into consideration that even if it's a power food that will help me release weight, will it be good for me if I have a sensitivity to it
If
or
you're
no?
sensitive to it, skip it.
Skip it.
Yeah,
Okay.
skip it. Now
But there's enough.
you'll be glad to know that almonds aren't a power food anyway.
Yeah.
They have health benefits. They've got a lot of vitamin E, great, but there's also a lot of fat and calories in the almond. So I'm not saying people have to avoid them, but if you're allergic, you're sensitive to it, do avoid them. There are a million other foods, things that you can eat. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
At Harvard back in 2015, researchers published the results of an amazing study.
Mhm.
They looked at more than 100,000 people and they tracked the foods that they were eating as the years went by. And then they tracked their weight. And what they discovered is if you augmented your consumption of certain things, people's weight tended to drift downward. And there were 6 foods that were at the top of the list. And the number 6 was the bean group. When people ate more beans, peas, lentils, and bean products, like soy products, they tended to lose more weight. Okay, we get that. Beans are probably the highest fiber food there is. Fiber has almost no calories. It's very filling. Okay, great. Number 5 was the melon group. Melons, cantaloupe, watermelon. Okay, we get that. They're really high in water, not a lot of calories, very filling. Okay. Number 4, citrus fruits. Citrus, oranges, grapefruits, and even juices. And a lot of people say you shouldn't have juice, you should have the whole food. And that's true. But they discovered that no matter which form you got it in, it was associated with weight loss. Number 3 was green leafy vegetables. Number 2 was cruciferous vegetables, and that's the special foods, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. But the number one food for weight loss was this humble, tiny, self-effacing little food we call the blueberry. And its cousins like raspberries and strawberries and blackberries. That color in the blueberry, it comes from what are called anthocyanins, as I mentioned earlier. That's what makes them blue. And a variant of anthocyanins makes strawberries reddish. And what they discovered is that the more of the anthocyanin-rich foods you eat, the more weight you lose. And the final kind of convincing thing about this, because we're skeptical of everything. One study we think, is this really true? Researchers in England brought together almost 3,000 identical twin pairs. And everyone had a DEXA scan. So you lie on the table and you're looking at the body composition, how much body fat do you have in your abdomen and your thighs. What they discovered is that the twin who ate more anthocyanins, blueberries, strawberries, even pears, that little blush on there, that's anthocyanins. The twin who ate the most anthocyanins had about 9% less abdominal fat compared to her genetically identical twin. So all we're doing is we're saying, okay, those foods are good. Let me emphasize those foods in my diet. Let me take out the foods that have the opposite effect. And the weight loss can be very strong, very quick, very consistent without you really lifting a finger to do anything other than pick up your fork and eat.
Okay, so I want to follow up on the juices. I want to follow up on the melons. And what about sugar? The concentration of sugar that you get, will it decrease it because you're eating the whole food and the fibers help? How does that work with sugar when it comes
Okay,
to all
well,
these?
great question, Lillian. First of all, sugar is not your enemy. Sugar was packed by Mother Nature into fruit because you need energy, and energy comes to you in many forms, but sugar is your body's favorite form. The sugar in the foods you eat goes into your blood. That's blood sugar. This is not a bad thing. That blood sugar is on the way to your muscles. It's on your way to your brain to give you energy. Where people run into trouble is they take sugar that was in, say, sugar cane, and instead of just munching on a little sugar cane, they pull all the sugar out in the factory, stick it into a cookie, along with a whole bunch of butter and flour and stuff, and it's now half fat, half sugar, and people gain weight with that. But the natural sugars, the way nature devised them, that's fine, and that's perfectly okay.
Very good. Okay, so yeah, I know that sugars coming from the fruit, when it's the whole fruit, what I understand is that the fibers of the whatever we're eating will slow down the glucose levels in our body. And but when you're eating something like watermelon, I was told, watermelon has too much sugar. I love watermelon. As a matter of fact, I spent I went to back conferences not too long ago, and every morning for breakfast I had watermelons. And it was interesting because in the past I would have had to have some nuts and to kind of bulk it up, maybe
Right.
a avocado, but just having the melon, the watermelon was enough to keep me full until lunch. Does it matter how much we eat, or do we have to measure our dose? Can we eat until we're full, or do we have to measure how much we eat?
I wouldn't bother measuring, and I would go with it. It's perfectly fine. Now, but there's something to what you're saying, that the concept of the glycemic index, which was invented back in 1981 by my good friend David Jenkins at the University of Toronto, and they and still do feed volunteers various foods, and then you measure the effect on your blood sugar. And watermelon is one that does tend to cause blood sugar to rise a little faster than other foods. But on the other hand, the dose that they use is a lot. And watermelons are mostly water. So you're filling up on a lot of water, a little bit of natural sugar. So I really wouldn't worry about it at all.
Okay, very good. That's good. That's
Perfectly
good to
fine.
know. That's good to know. Okay, so with that in mind, you have these 6 foods, and you're eating these 6 types of foods, whether it's citrus, you had said beans, melon, citrus, green leafy, then you have the cruciferous,
Cruciferous.
and then the blueberries or strawberries or the berries. So if you were to eat something like that, these are not high calorie foods. And so the question somebody will probably ask me is, what about carbs? What about proteins? And I know that vegetables have proteins, but in the mind of somebody who's hearing this for the first time, they might think, well, we need to have animal products in order to be full. What would you say to that?
Okay, well, first of all, I didn't mean to imply that these are the only foods a person could
Good.
eat,
Okay. Okay.
or that these are the only power foods. There
Okay.
are a lot of power foods.
Okay.
There are many, many, many of them, and I'm going to share them with you in
Good.
the Power Foods diet. And not only that, I'm going to share with you recipes that you can put them to work in, really easy, delicious, wonderful recipes. Or if you're allergic to cooking, I'll share with you convenience foods that so you can pick these up. You don't have to make your own blueberry muffins if you don't want to.
That's
So,
great. That's great.
very, very, very easy. But your question is one that people are going to ask. Wait a minute, you said to eat beans, you're going to get a lot of carbs in there. Once again, carbohydrate is, I think, a bit maligned. For example, let's say I take a potato or a sweet potato. People are like, oh, that's carbs, that's going to make me fat. The potato has very few calories naturally. Sweet potatoes have very few calories until they come out of the oven. And when they do, what do? We slather on the butter and the sour cream and the cheese doodles and the bacon bits. And then we say, oh, gee, that potato was so fattening. It had very few calories. Naturally, it's the toppings that are fatty. And think about that. You take another carb like toast. Toast comes out of the toaster. What do? We put the butter and so forth all over the top, or pancakes or anything else. It's kind of the same story. But back to my potato friend. People are going to say, it's all carbs. Don't I need protein? If you take one large potato and compare it with one large egg, which has more protein? Everyone's going to say, well, eggs have a lot of protein.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's more protein in the potato than there is in the egg?
No, I did not know that.
That
That is
is
the
true.
first time I am like so excited about that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you have to eat potatoes. You don't have to, but it's got healthy complex carbohydrate, which is the fuel your brain wants. It's got more protein than the eggs, but do be careful about the toppings here. So the whole idea of the Power Foods diet is there are certain foods that you want to emphasize. And I mentioned those 6 foods from Harvard, but there are spices. We talked about cinnamon a little bit. Ginger is one. Hot peppers have capsaicin in them, which zips up your calorie burn a little bit. And the whole idea is just use them, enjoy them, and look what happens on the scale.
That's really good. That's really good. I am still excited about the potato. Now, just recently did like a gut cleanse, a super gut cleanse. And what we were told, and with molds and metals with Dr. Lee Cowden, I don't know if you know Dr. Lee Cowden, we did a molds, metals, and microbes detox. We couldn't have any carbs. It was very, very, very little carbs. And so he was saying that these are the carbs that kind of like hurt our body eventually, and grains. We couldn't have grains. So what do you say about that when it comes to fighting mold and funguses in the body?
Well, your body does have a microbiome. So you've got a party going on in your intestinal tract. It's just a question of who got invited to it.
Yeah.
So there are some bacteria and fungi and so forth that are actually healthy and normal. And there are other ones that are really not the best guests. And what determines whether they stick around or not is what you feed them. Think about this. If you have a party and there's nothing to eat, people leave. If you have a party where there's lots of great nourishing things, the people that you want will stay. And so that's true in your digestive tract. So the kinds of foods that you read about in the Power Foods diet, we're going to start our breakfast. Let's say I do make my French toast. Now, this is not going to be a French toast that is all dripping with fat. It's going to be a healthy one, and I'll top it with some cinnamon and some blueberry syrup. Are there carbs there? Yes, entirely good carbs, and you are going to love it. And for all these people who say, no, I'm not worthy, I can't eat French toast anymore, I have to be punished for the rest of my life, get over it. These are foods that you can eat and you will lose weight. Why? Because they will tame your appetite, they will trap calories so you can't absorb them, and they will boost your metabolism after the meal. The weight loss is going to be automatic. Or let's say it's dinner time and you can make chili with a lot of ground beef, but make my Southwest chili, which is made from beans and other healthy foods. It's delicious. It's got a lot of zip in it. Feed it to your food dissecting 12-year-old kid. They will love this. It's great foods. We're getting to dessert. I've got a triple berry sorbet where we put in the blueberries and the raspberries and the strawberries, and we whip it up in a nice, delicious way. Or I've got blueberry pops. Yeah, the kids all come, and you put a little stick in this and you put them in the freezer, and they are just so fun. In fact, can I show this to you? I didn't
Yeah.
show you this. This is the Power Foods diet, and Dustin Harder and Lindsay S. Nixon did all of the recipes. There are more than 120 of them. And we also said, not everybody feels like cooking. So let's make them really, really easy. We have some that are kind of elegant, I have to say, but there are some that are really very easy, and it's just fun. And we're going to talk about going to restaurants and having desserts. And once again, these are not just indulgent foods. They are foods that tame the appetite, trap calories, boost your metabolism so that the weight loss is automatic.
I love it. And I just want to add, which I haven't said it yet, that Dr. Neal Barnard is giving away one book in the classroom. And we're going to, let's see, today is the 7th of March. So I'll come up with a week after. So the following week, I will do a drawing. So all of you who would like a copy of this book, 407-373-5959, text me. I will put your name in a winner's basket. And then after 1 week, a week from today, so it's next Wednesday, we will absolutely draw one name and I will give it to Dr. Neal Barnard. Now, this book is coming out on March 26th, but you can pre-order the book on Amazon. If you're a subscriber in the classroom, you already have all the information in the blog for for this book and everything that it's really exciting to know. I have not had the opportunity to see the book, but I know that if there's anything like any of Dr. Neal Barnard's book, there's going to be lots of information and great recipes. So when you talk about these recipes, what kind of toast are you using? Because I have stopped eating bread, Dr. Barnard. I have stopped. I don't eat bread anymore. I know that a lot of people do, but it just hasn't been worth it to me. There's a lot of sugar, some added stuff, and I even bought my own bread machine, and it just didn't, I couldn't make it the way I wanted to, like gluten-free, dairy-free. So what is an example of a toast, a bread that you would use and would be okay for this diet?
Sure. Let me share with you a study. This was 2017 Tufts University in Boston, where one of the big nutrition centers in the world.
Mhm.
And they brought in a group of individuals, and half of them were given white bread and white rice. Now, what makes it white is you take the wheat grain and you remove the fiber coating, or you take the rice grain, the tan thing that makes it brown rice. That's fiber, and you take it off, and now you got white rice. So they gave them white bread, white rice, and they had the other half of the volunteers got a different diet. They got whole grain bread and whole grain rice. That's brown rice. And then what they did is they fed these things to individuals, and they discovered something amazing, that the people who ate the white bread and the white rice, if as the bread went down, they tended to absorb these calories, and they measured the calories they were consuming, and they tend to absorb the calories very efficiently, which is not necessarily what you want. The groups having the whole grain bread and the brown rice, it turned out that they weren't absorbing so many calories. And they did something that, don't try this at home. They actually did stool analyses of everybody. Yes, they collected stool samples, and what they discovered was these high fiber foods were trapping calories in their digestive tract. The fiber does it. It's like a sponge. It says, okay, here's some calories you haven't absorbed yet. I'm going to soak them up, and I'm going to carry them out, and you're going to flush those calories down the toilet instead of absorbing them. And it wasn't huge, but the effect was about 100 calories a day. So here's the beauty of it. We're going to add the calorie trapping effect that comes from the whole grain varieties. We're going to add that to the appetite taming effect and the metabolism boosting effect. And the net difference can be a good 500 calories a day without you even noticing it. You're shedding it without any hunger, without noticing anything other than the fact that the scale is starting to smile at you. And friends are saying, what are you doing? You look so energetic. You've lost weight. What's your secret? And the secret is just letting the foods do it for you.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the rice will trap some of these calories and then you will release them. Like I know that with
That's
beans,
right.
I think it's Dr. Joel Furman who says that a bean has high fiber, it's high protein, and it is a carb, but it's not treated as a carb in the body because it's passed with the carbs are passed through and they're not. And perhaps maybe this is the same thing that you're saying. You're saying that the rice, the brown rice, is trapping the calorie and it's passing it through without noticing or affecting the body. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Some of the calories are lost, but let me be clear. Carbohydrate is not the devil.
Yeah.
Carbohydrate has been written about in very unfairly negative ways ever since Atkins said carbs make you fat, and he made everybody afraid to eat pasta, rice, potatoes. They wouldn't eat any of these foods, and they came to often regret it. Carbohydrates are not bad. Carbohydrates are your body's favorite fuel. Let me be clear about this.
Okay.
Carbohydrate, what that means is glucose, which glucose is what goes to your brain and allows you to think. Glucose goes to your muscles and allows you to move. Glucose, if you link one glucose molecule to another, to another, to another, to another, you get a long glucose chain. That is a carbohydrate. So the carbohydrates in potatoes or in bread come apart because your digestive tract snips them into glucose molecules, absorbs them, gives them to your muscles, and you say, "Thank God, I've got energy now." So where carbohydrates became bad is because of the fatty toppings that we put on them, or we'll take that innocent potato and we stick it in the fryer grease, and it comes out dripping with fat, and we blame the carbohydrate. There was nothing wrong with that carbohydrate.
You know, it's very confusing sometimes, and I don't know if anybody that's watching right now can relate to this. We hear one thing that it's good, and then we hear somebody say it's bad, another person say it's good, and it's very confusing as to, is this true for everybody? Like I just attended this conference, this cancer conference, and they were saying that depending on our metabolic typing, that is the food that we should eat. And I know that you don't believe in the blood type diet, something about a size 7 and an 11 shoe or something like that. I remember that, and I love that analogy. But what is your perception of, does this help everybody, or will it be for some people?
Okay, well, we all have biases, and we all have things that we think might work or might not work. My job is to put these things to the test.
Yes.
So as a scientist, that's what we do. And so here at the Physicians Committee, we'll take people who want to lose weight and we test things. For example, we brought in 62 people and we tested a Mediterranean diet in all 62. We compared that to a low-fat vegan diet, and we had everybody do both diets. So we just see how the diets work, and we have to be dispassionate about it and let the data speak for themselves. And what we discovered is the people who have the most trouble losing weight are the people who are afraid of carbohydrate and the people who avoid them. Now, why is that a problem? Because carbohydrates are 50 or 60% of what you eat. That's right. And if you take all that away, what are you going to be putting in its place? If fatty foods go in their place, fatty foods are much denser in calories, more than twice as dense in calories compared to the carbohydrate. And think about this. If you went back to, say, Japan in the 1960s, before McDonald's arrived, before the fast food chains all came in, before the place westernized, what was their dietary staple? It was rice, huge amounts of rice. And, maybe some fish and some vegetables and things like that, but enormous amounts of rice. They were the skinniest, longest lived people on the planet. So carbs are not the devil, but carbs can become a problem if, as I said, we pack in all the fatty toppings. But I'm taking my angel hair pasta, my spaghetti, and I'm topping it with a ground beef sauce. And I take that off instead. I say, wait, my Italian chef friend has an arrabbiata sauce, which he explains to me. Arrabbiata is Italian for angry, meaning spicy. And this spicy tomato sauce has no animal products in it. So it's got natural fiber, natural antioxidants, and that's a slimming food. And you can enjoy carbohydrates again. But Lily, I got to tell you, it almost breaks my heart. We work with people with diabetes, and they'll say, I can eat cereal again. I can have toast again. I was told I could never have these things again. And yes, they can have these things. We're allowing them to eat these foods in their most healthful form. They lose weight easily. Their blood sugars improve dramatically. And I hear you. You'll hear all kinds of conflicting things. And that's why we do research studies to sort these things out.
That's great. And that's one of the reasons you are part of the classroom, because, I know that you do your research. And but again, it is confusing to lay people like me when we hear one person come on strong and say, no, you need this, and the other one comes saying, no, we don't need that. But it is true. I mean, in China, in Japan, rice is a staple. In Latin America, rice and beans. I grew up on rice and beans. My parents are Hispanic, so I grew up that way. But then you all of a sudden have to kind of divorce yourself from some of those eating patterns, eating habits, and all of a sudden substitute it with something else. And then I'll have rice maybe once in a while now because of all the information on carbs being, high carbs is bad. So are you saying what I'm hearing you say is that carbs are not the enemy, and that can you have as much as you want if you do not put the fatty stuff on it? Like,
Effectively, yes.
okay.
Effectively, yes. Now, there's all different ways of doing it. Let's say I take the potato, I throw away the skin. Well, maybe having that skin on there is okay because there's nutrients in there. I take the sweet potato, same
If it's
thing.
organic, right? If it's
Oh,
organic.
you said it. I have to say, organic often is more expensive, and to tell you the truth, I think it's worth it.
Hmm.
Um, and when you eat a plant-based diet, what we do discover is that although people imagine, oh, this is going to cost me a fortune, you do spend more on vegetables and you spend more on fruits and more on beans, but you're spending a lot less, like nothing, on cheese and on meat. And so we calculated that the average person saves about $500 a year when they go plant-based, which
Wow.
is about 16% of their food
Wow.
cost. So you're going to save some money. Now, the opposite, you can say, well, I don't want to do any of this. I'm just going to eat my normal food and I'll inject Wegovy. Well, for $15,600 a year, Novo Nordisk will sell you Wegovy or Ozempic, which is the other
Ozempic.
the other trade name for the same drug. But it's protection money because when you stop paying, all the benefits evaporate and you regain the lost weight. So don't torture yourself. Let the foods do this naturally.
Okay, well that's really good. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of which foods these are, but before I do that, I want to encourage all of you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like, and follow me on all social media. When you subscribe, you will have everybody's information. You'll be the first one to know on Sunday at 4:44. You'll get your blog in the morning, and you'll be the first ones to know who's going to be in the classroom the following week and all the links to our teachers. And so please subscribe and share this video with everybody. This is the best way to keep the algorithms from squashing the information. We need to have this information out there because there's so much confusion of how we need to be or what we need to do. I'm confused sometimes, and I just want to do what's best for my body. And so we need to educate ourselves and do our own research too. We need to be our own medical detective, our own MD. I want to encourage all of you to go to my sponsored page and support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. Also the Shop Now bag. And in the Shop Now bag, there are some affiliate and some others that I just absolutely love these products. And I just want you to know that from makeup to pain management, these are natural alternatives for you to live the life that you want. Also, I wanted to remind you that on April 6th, 2024, we're going to have the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. The I Am is the God in us, that intuition, that higher power that helps us discern what is good for us and what is not good for us. So I want to encourage all of you that if you haven't done this already, get your ticket, get your front row seat in the workshop, the summit. It's going to be in Rockledge, Florida. And who doesn't want to come to Florida in April? It is so beautiful in Florida in April. So join us. And if you cannot make it, we are also going to be doing a stream. So text me at 407-373-5959, and I will show you how we're going to be doing this. You can be a part of that. You can get your ticket for that as well. So, so today we have last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, one-time donation, whatever you can do is very much appreciated. As you know, things have become more expensive as the algorithms and this information is considered misinformation at times. It is amazing. I've had over 50 videos removed on YouTube alone with information on health and wellness that was okay in 2017, but I guess it's not anymore. But I just want you to know that we need to do everything we can to keep these videos alive. You can always find them on BitChute and Odyssey. Today we have Dr. Neal Barnard. I am so excited that he's in the classroom, and he comes with a new baby, the Power Food Diet, the Power Food foods diet. And this isn't a diet per se. This is a lifestyle change. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Barnard?
Yes, I would say that, and to make that clear, I've illustrated this with real people in this book.
Yeah.
There's a woman named Shawnee who is in Kansas City
Mhm.
and started gaining weight when she was about 10, 9, 10, 11. And she said, I was kind of the kid in the class that other kids would point at. And her mother had a weight problem. And at age 12, Shawnee would go with her mother to the weight control classes, and they would try this diet and that diet and the other diet. And she ended up being 100 pounds heavier than she wanted to be. And she finally discovered this healthy approach that you're going to read about in the Power Foods diet, and lost that 100 pounds. But one of the most beautiful things happened is that not only did she lose the weight, but by discovering what these foods will do, she shared it with her mother and shared it with her other family members, so they all get healthier together. Or there's another person who I just really admire so much. His name is Dr. Steve Loam. He's like Shawnee, he's a real person. And Steve Loam, the reason I tell this story is you may have heard of this. He is a cardiologist in Monterey, California. And a year or maybe 2 months, a year and a half or 2 years ago, he was running a half marathon, running down, 13 miles. So he's running along, and right up in front of him is a runner, falls over, hits the pavement, dead. Steve Loam goes over, feels for a pulse, no pulse. They say, call an ambulance, call 911. Let's get an ambulance here. Let's get a defibrillator. He starts doing CPR, and they bring a defibrillator. They shock him. They get a pulse. Okay, he's in terrible shape, but they get an ambulance. They load him and bring him to the hospital. Saves his life. So Steve Loam is thinking, what kind of a race is this? Is amazing. But after a while, he thinks, well, I got to get to the finish line. I may as well finish the race. So he finishes the race, gets to the finish line, runs through the tape, and there in front of him is another guy, falls over, dead, no pulse. And he once again says, this can't be happening. And they call
Twice.
911 twice in the same afternoon.
Wow.
They bring in the ambulance, they get a defibrillator, they shock him, and this person goes off to the hospital. And Steve became famous because the Today Show, maybe a year or so ago, reunited them all. And
Oh,
he had talked to them about their diet in the interim, and they made these huge diet changes. But the reason I'm telling you about Steve Loam is not only was this an amazing thing, but he had his own story, which was he grew up in a family where they ate all the kind of wrong things. The blueberry muffin had all the butter in it, and the breakfast had the bacon and sausage. And he himself was way overweight. And he was a doctor. And so he went online and he looked at what does the dietary guidelines for Americans say I should be eating. And he thought, well, it says eat more chicken, eat more fish. He tried these things, and it wasn't burning up the weight at all. And finally, he thought, wait a minute, I think I really need to do a 180 here. And he started eating the foods that you'll read about Steve and his story in the Power Foods diet. He lost a huge amount of weight, well over 100 pounds. His family members lost weight too. And so now he has shown other people how to save their lives. And hopefully you don't have to do it with a defibrillator on the jogging trail. Hopefully you can do it on your breakfast plate. So anyway, all these stories are in there of individuals who have made huge changes. These are real people, and you can do it too.
that is amazing. So what are some of the other foods that we need to start looking at differently today?
Okay, all right. Let me walk you through some of the recipes because I worked with
Okay.
Dustin Harder. In fact, by the way, when you get the Power Foods diet, I want you to go in here and look at these beautiful.
Ooh.
This book is as close to food porn as I could make. I have to say, really, I have to tell you, it's just really delicious foods. Dustin Harder and Lindsay S. Dixon made the recipes. So I already mentioned my wonderful French toast, which is just killer, along with the blueberry maple syrup. It's fabulous. And Lindsay made some wild blueberry muffins. Now, these are not your grandmother's muffins because we did not put a whole bunch of shortening and butter in them. They're light, they're delicious, and they are slimming. We have a
What are
veggie
some
lunch.
of the binders that you use? Flaxseed, applesauce. What do you
Yeah,
use?
those work fine. I love applesauce, or I'll use a banana or something like that. There's
Okay.
certain things you can use. They work really, really well.
Good.
There's a
Good.
mango dal that's terrific. My penny arrabbiata, we've already talked about, just
Hmm.
fabulous beyond belief. My Southwest chili, everybody loves chili, but this is the one when the adolescents are coming over after school. This is the one that fills them up and makes them really love it. The desserts are great. And I have some brownies that we call black and blue brownies. And this is funny because they actually have a little bit of black beans in there and some blueberries in there, and you are never going to believe it because they taste so fabulous. So all of these things, you can see what we're doing. We're making sure that the ingredients are high in fiber. Why? Because fiber has almost no calories, but it tames your appetite. And in our research studies, we find that we can help people to eat maybe 200 or 300 calories less without ever knowing it, because the food choices they're making happen to be high in natural, healthy complex carbs and natural fiber. So you're eating to satiety, but you're eating less. You're getting the calorie trapping effect, and you're getting the metabolism boosting effect from these natural foods. So you may say, well, yeah, fine, but I don't cook that much. I eat at restaurants. Okay, let's go to your favorite Italian place,
Okay.
your favorite Mexican, Chinese, your favorite sushi bar. I'm going to show you, skip the fish sushi, have the cucumber roll, have the asparagus roll, have the sweet potato roll.
Yeah.
Those are power foods. You can put them in.
Very good. Okay. So with that in mind, I want to remind you all, Dr. Barnard is going to hold up his book. You will have an opportunity. One of you is going to be able to win a week from today. We're going to draw one of the names. So all you have to do to get into the giveaway, you can either email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com, or you can text me at 407-373-5959. Let me know that you want the Power Foods Diet book from Dr. Neal Barnard. Let me know your name, and then we will collect all these names and we will put it in the winner's basket. A week from today, we will draw the names, and we will pick one name, and I'll reach out to you if you're the winner. If somebody's overseas, Dr. Barnard, can we just have them pay for the shipping costs if they want to participate?
Don't worry about it. I'll send it to you.
Whoa, so
I'll
this is
send it
for
to you.
everybody. Okay,
You
okay,
bet.
this is for everybody.
You bet.
Wonderful. You're so generous. And so this is, I just wanted to remind all of you that this is how we take our health back. I mean, I am looking forward to getting my copy because I want to create some of these recipes, because I have been a bit confused lately. I will be honest with you, of what's good and what's not good. I've been staying away from as many carbs. The other day I had my first tiny little potatoes. They're the organic potatoes, the little fingerlings or whatever they're called. And it was for the first time. I've been eating a lot of cauliflower. I've been eating a lot of other things that are lower in the carb value. And so it's nice to hear that you've done these studies that are helping people not only get better, feel better, but also release weight in the moment, in the process. Now, how long have you been following these people? Because it's been since 2022 since you did your body in balance. So how long have you been following people on this lifestyle change?
Sure. Well, we've been doing studies for many, many years.
Mhm.
The first study where we showed the metabolism boosting effect was published by the American Journal of Medicine in 2005. And it was a 14-week study initially. So 14 weeks, what's that, about 3 or 4 months? And we tracked people by giving them the power foods, and they did well.
Mhm.
But you don't want to stop there. So we tracked everybody for an additional year, and we found that the weight never came back. In fact, they were thinner after a year than they were ending the study. And then we tracked them for another year after that, and found that the weight did not come back. But however, if you do a more typical diet, the weight very often comes back because people try to starve it off, and it's just so unnatural. You can't sustain it, so you go back to what you were eating before. But no, we've seen people, the weight just tends not to come back. So we've been doing study after study after study. One of the funnest ones was one we did with a car insurance company, and the reason we did it is Geico. Their headquarters is right when I look out my window. They're about 3 blocks away.
Okay.
And so I was talking with their health director, and she said, I got 2,500 people in this building. We have diabetes, we have obesity.
Mhm.
And so we started using these foods at Geico, but we did it in 10 different cities, not just here I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, but we did it in 10 cities and found it doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Macon, Georgia. You can live in Buffalo, New York. You can live in San Diego. These foods are going to work for you. These are healthy foods, not just for your waistline. Yeah, that may be what you want, and fair enough. Let's trim away that waist, but let's trim away our cholesterol too. Let's trim away high blood pressure. If I've got high blood sugar, I've got diabetes or prediabetes, let's trim that away too. If you've got pain because your joints are hurting or you got migraines, let's do what we can to trim all those things away.
Now, does it matter when you did this testing, did you measure exercise? Did you measure other factors that can help people release weight faster? What did you
Yes.
measure?
Yeah, no, that's a terrific question, Lily. And in most of our studies, we ask people not to change their exercise. Now,
Okay.
exercise is great. I'm a big proponent of it. I love exercise myself. But if I'm trying to isolate, what are these foods going to do? I have to keep everything else constant. So what we'll typically say is eat these foods, make your diet change, but now is not the time to train for a marathon. That said, if you have the Power Foods diet and you want to train for a marathon at the same time, go for it. That's kind of what I do. I have to say, I personally eat the Power Foods every single day, starting for breakfast. And I also like to lace up my sneakers too. So you can do both at the same time.
Well, that's wonderful. Any other stories that stick out? I mean, that Steve Loom story sounds amazing, but
Yeah.
have you seen, like, when you say that you've gone back and they have not gained the weight back, is this everyone, or is this like 80%, 90% of the people that originally did this?
Oh, what a great question. 100% of the people have issues in life.
Uh,
Everybody does. Here's what I mean. I can show you how to be on as perfect a diet as possible, but next week you're going to get invited to a party. And
yes.
when you're at the party, you don't want to stick out and something happens, or you're going to go to your grandma's place and she says, I made you these beautiful buttery cookies. Don't you want? And you don't want to hurt grandma's feelings. So you take a bite and pretty soon you've eaten the whole thing and you're having,
Pretty-
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is real life. So we tackle these things. And in our research studies, we meet as a group. In fact, when you and I finish up, I'm going into a group that we're doing right now, where
Mhm.
we bring in people and they all know now how to do the foods, but we talk about real life. Okay, let's say my spouse doesn't want to eat this way or something like that. How do we seduce them with the foods that nobody can resist? So that's what we're going to do is that everybody has issues. They're almost always the same issues. There are always answers. I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to walk you through it. We've been over these little rough waters before. We know where the stepping stones are, and it's not hard.
What are some of the misconceptions of weight loss? I know that some people starve themselves. I mean, I know some people that are using Ozempic to manage their weight, and you had mentioned earlier about the dangers of Ozempic, and there's other ways it's a lot cheaper. I mean, and to me, for people to say they can't afford organics, I always say to them, but yeah, but you can afford your hospital stay, which is what eventually will happen if you have all these chemicals in your body and it doesn't agree with you. So, what would you say? What are some of the misconceptions about weight loss that people need to get over? You mentioned about carbs and how carbs are not the enemy. What are some of the other misconceptions that you used that you saw as hurdles with the people that you were working with?
Yeah, one of the things that I grew up with as a kid, I grew up in North Dakota. And so my grandpa was a cattle rancher, and my father grew up in the cattle ranching home, and that's what he did until he knew better and he decided I want out, and he left and he went to medical school. And I've kind of followed in his footsteps. But we all had this idea that we grew up with, which is that meat should be the center of the plate. And then we started to realize, wait a minute, it's got cholesterol, it's got animal fat in it. This could be why my mother's dad died at 62 of stroke that he shouldn't have had, and why you see these cardiovascular diseases so commonly. What we learned is that in so many other countries, meat wasn't the center of the plate. They might have a traditional grain or something else that was at the center of their plate, and if they used meat, it was a flavoring. If you go down, let's say we're talking about Latin America. Let's say we go down to the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The dietary staple there, black beans, corn tortillas, la chaya, and other vegetables, which us gringos never heard of. Well, they're there. These are great foods. And then the Spanish came in. And they said, you Mayan folks here, hey, why don't you have some pig fat and add it to your beans? Well, for thousands of years, nobody was putting pig fat in their beans. But the Spanish arrived with pigs and with cheese? What's all this stuff? And they started to kind of corrupt the diet. And so we all grew up with the idea that, well, I should have dairy, shouldn't I? Shouldn't I have cheese? Shouldn't I have meat? Those are European traditions that have brought us in kind of the wrong direction. But I think, Lillian, to tell you the truth, I think one of the most important misconceptions is that things can't change. So many people have felt this because the diet that they were on didn't really work over the long run. So people have kind of given up. Things can change. Your body can heal. And you know this. Every time you accidentally prick your finger or cut yourself, your skin has, in every skin cell, a little owner's manual that says you can heal. And it's not necessarily pretty that the cut will heal with a little bit of a scar, but it will heal. If you break your bone, the cast doesn't heal you, your bone will heal itself. Can diabetes heal? That's what we discovered when in 2003, the National Institutes of Health gave us a grant to test a better diet for type 2 diabetes and found that everybody gets a different result, but this condition can improve dramatically and in some people go away. And so for somebody who's been beaten up by an unhealthy diet, and it didn't just beat them up physically, it beat them up psychologically because they felt if I can't do a diet, I got no willpower, I'll probably be a lousy employee, I'll probably be a really bad parent or something like that. You know, unfortunately, people just live these things. And when you're on a healthier diet, then what you discover is that physically it starts to help you to burn the weight off. That gives you a sense of success. And you realize I can tackle these physical issues. I can get rid of this weight. People start complimenting me. And I realize I can do a lot of things that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do.
Very nice. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you, what about organic tempeh, organic tofu? Where does that sit with the power foods diet?
It's fine. Tempeh
Good.
and tofu come from soybeans. Soybeans are in the bean group, and that was group number 6 in the Harvard study.
Okay.
So now tofu and soy products have kind of a bad rep.
Yeah, I know.
There's this urban myth that for some reason won't die, and that is that soy causes cancer, or that soy has phytoestrogens that will increase the risk of cancer. Now, just real quick, there are compounds in soy called isoflavones, and they do attach to estrogen receptors, but they attach to the estrogen beta receptor, which reduces cancer risk. And studies clearly show that people who have more tempeh, more tofu, more soy milk, a woman who consumes a lot of these has about 30% less risk of breast cancer. And a woman who has been diagnosed with breast cancer who brings soy into her life has about 30% less risk of dying of her cancer compared to women who avoid soy. So soy is on the good list.
And as we get down to the nitty-gritty in the last part of the class here, I must ask about supplements. Are there particular supplements that people need to have when they start eating this way? We'd like to share that.
Great question. Real quick. Everybody should take vitamin B12. The amount that you need is 2.4 micrograms, but you go into the store, they're all more than that. So it'll be 100 micrograms, 200, 500, those are fine. If it's 10,000 micrograms, you don't need that every day, maybe every other day. So everyone should take vitamin B12. It's for healthy blood, healthy nerves, not optional. You may want to take vitamin D, but vitamin D normally comes from the sun. So if you get plenty of sun, don't worry. If you're indoors all the time, it's North Dakota, it's February. Okay, fair enough. Take 2,000 international units is the amount that a lot of doctors would suggest. Vitamin E, I would not take it because there are 8 forms of vitamin E in nature. The pill has only 1 form or 2 forms. And you want to get it in the balance that nature provides. And a little bit of nuts, a little bit of seeds will give you the vitamin E that you need. Okay. Omega-3s are very controversial. I prefer to get them from foods. If you want to take an omega-3 supplement, there are vegan ones derived from algae, which are cleaner than the fish ones, in my view. And there are companies that will test you, like Omega Quant. You go online and order one of their test kits, cost you maybe $50, something like that. You put a little drop of blood on the card, and you send it in, and 2 weeks later, they'll tell you you're low in omega-3 or you're not, and then you can supplement and test again if you wish to. But there are controversies about it, and for good reason. So it's not a slam dunk for omega-3s at the moment.
Very good. Very good. Wow, this is wonderful. And once again, the book is called The Power Foods Diet. The Power Foods Diet. If you want get your copy, pre-order it in Amazon. You can click on the blog. It'll take you straight there. And if you want to get a copy of this book, whether you're in the United States or outside of the country, Dr. Neal Barnard is going to be sending it to you. You can text me at 407-373-5959, or you can email me at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com. Dr. Neal Barnard, I am just so thrilled to reconnect with you. I would love for you to have an opportunity to share last minute thoughts that maybe we hadn't had the opportunity to talk about until this moment. What would you like to add to anything that we said today?
For now, don't worry about what you're going to eat 10 years or 20 years from now. Focus on today. Focus on this week, maybe the next 3 weeks, but focus on the short term. That allows you to really do it and see the results. And when you've learned something, whether it's from me or whether it's from Lillian McDermott, don't keep it to yourself. Share it.
Yeah, we need to be like John the Baptist. It's amazing that we need to share this information because this information is being suppressed. It's more lucrative to take a pill, but for the pharmaceutical industry. But as you know, my saying is, you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. It's time for all of us to take ownership for our life, become our own MDs, our own medical detectives, and figure out what foods work for you. And now we have a list that will help us eat the foods that will help us release weight naturally. I don't like to lose weight because if I lose anything, I'm going to try to find it. So it's about releasing and let somebody else find it. So thank you so much, Dr. Barnard. It is so wonderful to hear that you have a new baby. You popped another baby out, and I'm looking forward to the next one that we get to discuss. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Lillian.
Yeah, and please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Neal Barnard wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. That was wonderful.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before